The time now is 2 minutes past 2. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to the Monday edition of Market View right here on Eswatini TV. I am Nathalisi Tole, glad to have you on the program. Our focus today is the kingdom's capital city. On Friday, a new partnership between the Municipal Council of Mbabane and the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund was signed, promising opportunity, capital and municipal contracts on the table to empower the youth. The pilot project, with nearly 500,000 emalangeni, is targeting 12 young entrepreneurs who will receive startup capital, equipment and a ready-made market in the form of city service delivery. So what exactly is in this memorandum of understanding, and can this model be scaled up to the millions of emalangeni? We'll find out in a conversation with the Municipal Council of Mbabane on the expectations and the gamble to turn municipal needs into youth-powered businesses. Also, in our business report today, we'll seek insights from the President of Business Eswatini, Mvuselelo Fagutse, following the Central Bank of Eswatini's monetary policy statement, which has kept the discount rate at 6.75% and maintained prime lending rates at 10.25%. What do these developments mean for the private sector and the cost of doing business in 2026? Stay tuned to find out. But first, our business stories. Moving on with the program, on Friday last week, the governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Philip Nisi, released the monetary policy statement, maintaining the discount rate at 6.75%. The central bank maintained its inflation focus for 2026 at 3.97%, while the focus for 2027 was marginally revised upward to 3.93% from 3.84% focused in November of 2025. The inflation focus for 2028 stands at 3.4%. Credit extended to the private sector increased by 9.8% on a year-on-year basis, closing at 22.4 billion emalangeni in December of 2025. Business credit stood at 11.9 billion emalangeni, while credit extended to other sectors of the economy decreased slightly to 1.1 billion emalangeni. What does all this signal for the business environment? We're now joined by the President of Business Eswatini, Mvuselelo Fagutse, to provide his insights. Fagutse, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. As the business fraternity, what do you make of the CBE's decision to hold steady on rates?
Thank you very much and good afternoon to Eswatini. The Central Bank of Eswatini keeping rates unchanged means that cost of funding for the private sector remains the same for all businesses. It is a reflection of the underlying economy, but also the extent of inflation. We know it's tapering down. It was in December specifically, it was about 2.3%, and if it remains at that level, we do expect some pressure to be felt if the situation gets worse. But I think for now, the inflation rate is promising. And with that, we expect that if it remains at that level, that interest rates in the medium term are going to come down.
Let's talk about the CBE's focus for inflation. Inflation is projected to remain just below 4%. Should firms or companies or investors then expect real relief in terms of operation costs, in terms of input costs or productions and pricing pressures as well, or there's a risk that then could affect such gains?
Yeah, we would expect stability in the medium term, but I think the real risk might emanate from the currency. We've seen the currency strengthen against the dollar, which means the cost of fuel, which impacts everything that we spend on as consumers, will remain at lower levels. But if the dollar strengthens against our currency, that is where I think the primary risk is at the moment, and we hope that it doesn't happen, and that the cost of funds is going to remain the same, which means that funding or cost of debt will remain affordable for the private sector.
According to the monetary policy statement, CEO or President rather, the business credit rose to at least nearly just 12 billion emalangeni. That's at 11.9 billion emalangeni. What sectors would you say are then driving this demand? And is it really, does it signal genuine confidence, or it's a matter of businesses necessarily borrowing just to survive?
It depends on the type of industry that we're in. We've seen the sugar industry, for instance, increase their borrowings, and that's to fund additional capacity. As you know, the weather was good in the last period, and therefore a lot of cane has been crushed and it continues to be crushed by the millers, which means that a lot of the credit is extended to that sector, but also the industries that supply that sector, the transporters and the growers, a lot of credit is circulating around that area. And we expect that to, I would say, to improve as the crushing season comes to an end and growing starts again in the sugar industry, which is the biggest impact on the economy, but also other sectors as well. I think that there's going to be a lot of economic activity as we hear the government is constructing various projects from the dam and also the strategic fuel reserve. All those projects are going to consume a lot of debt from the banks, funding most especially for the suppliers to those large projects, which are normally SMEs and medium-sized enterprises in the kingdom.
My last one, Fagutse, in 30 seconds, please. Given that there's a rise in public debt, we still need investors in the country. As the business community or as the private sector, do you have concerns with regards to the rise in public debt when you look at fiscal sustainability and macroeconomic stability as we look ahead of 2026?
I think as long as the rise in public debt is happening at the same time as the growth in the GDP, then it's not a big issue. We just don't expect it to reach 50%. As long as it's below those levels, the rise is not a big concern for us because you can see economic growth, GDP growth averaging 5 to 6%. So it is supported by real growth.
Mvuselelo, thank you very much for your time. We'll leave it here. That was Mvuselelo Fagutse, who is president of Business Eswatini, chiming in on the recently announced or recently released monetary policy statement by the Central Bank of Eswatini. We'll now move on to some of our business stories, where the Royal Science and Technology Park has onboarded 10 more young people under the Business Incubator Program. The Senior Communications Officer, Senzo Malaza, says close to 100 eMaswati had applied.
We are pleased to note that many of eMaswati, particularly the youth, are coming up with very innovative business ideas across different sectors of the economy, including agriculture and food processing, biotechnology, fintech, green solutions, among others. So we are happy that the group that we were onboarding last week is joining a group that was already ongoing with our incubation program. I think we had about 25 that are ongoing, and then we have 10 new startups that we were onboarding, and then we have about 10 that are on our pipeline projects. The pipeline program is purely a program where those that had applied or had put in had responded to our call for application and came through to the pitching session, maybe had a couple of things that they need to review, and then they can come back for a pitching session again. We always say those can stay on and correct those few mistakes that probably were there in their applications, and then we will give them another opportunity to do the pitching session. So we have 10 of those that are on the pipeline, and we believe that all of them, looking at the ideas and the innovations that they are coming with, we believe that all of them stand a better chance of being incubated.
And that is your business brief. After the break, we speak to the Mbabane Municipality Council City Economic Development Officer, Winile Dlamini. Stay with us.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@escom.org.za. For more information, visit www.escom.org.za.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. And now for our Enterprise Watch segment, the Mbabane Municipal Council has sealed a 480,000 Malangeni partnership with the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. Speaking at Coronation Park in Mbabane last week, the Municipal Council's Chief Executive Officer, Gunwefa Wutse, said the pilot program will empower 12 local youth with 40,000 Malangeni each in startup capital alongside with guaranteed service contracts, bridging the gap between youth financing and market access. To further unpack this memorandum of understanding, we are now joined by Winile Dlamini, City Economic Development Officer at the Mbabane Municipal Council. Nkosi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you in studio. So let's get into the heart of the signed MOU. What is the municipality promising, and what exactly are the challenges that then prompted this partnership?
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity, and greetings to the viewers at home. Our partnership with the EF is an initiative that started like 3 years ago, where we realized that, you know, despite all the interventions that we do on entrepreneurship, there is this gap of funding. And behind funding, there's a collateral story, which tends to then water all the efforts that we get to do. So we then came together to say, how can we assist our young entrepreneurs who we would have trained to be the different types of business, who would have had the different types of business ideas. So what has prompted the need is, one, to complement our efforts in empowering the young person to say, you have a business skill, but then you lack financing. Here is an opportunity where you can get financing. And then another one, it is to try and say, Youth Fund, if you follow their reports, the uptake of loans is very low. And the major setback there, it is also the collateral. So the municipality is now saying, Yev, come, let's work together. How can we somehow offer a bit of some collateral so that we assist these young entrepreneurs access the resources that they need for their businesses? In this particular case, the City Council has said we have so many services that we have as Masipala. We have the grass cutting in our open spaces. We have grass cutting in road reserves. We have drain cleaning. We have pothole patching, you name it, all of those services. So those that are less risky, if one were to put it that way, which is the grass cutting, communities have been saying, why can't you give our children this kind of job? So we have come up with those jobs to say, let's give it a shot, a pilot with our open spaces, give it to our young people. Hence, the MOU is focusing on financing young entrepreneurs in the grass-cutting space of things, if one were to end there.
Right. 12 young people are to benefit, 40,000 emalangeni per entrepreneur. Given that, well, they're expected, the selection's supposed to be across all the wards in the city, right?
Yes.
So then allow me to ask, is this specifically a loan, or there's then, there's something attached to it?
Okay. How can I put it? It's both, in the sense that there's what they call a purchase order financing with Youth Fund, whereby an entrepreneur or a young person would be given a purchase order by any organization, not necessarily the city council. They go to Youth Fund to say, we have this money, we have this purchase order, can you please finance it? I'm expected to deliver this in a period of 3 months. I'm making an example. So in this particular case, it is the city council that will issue the purchase order on the work that is to be given, being the open space for grass cutting. So once they get that purchase order, they'll take it to, of course, after the shortlisting, they'll take it to Youth Fund, whereby Youth Fund will then mobilize the resources to buy the equipment, to buy the input, all the necessary input, the protective clothing, all the insurance things associated with being on that type of business, and then they'll execute the work. It's expected to be a 6-month program, though the financing or the repayment of the loan is within 3 months. And then the rest, it is to say, we don't just want to just give you money and then you go. We want to make sure that you can even have the capacity to get businesses from the private sector or from wherever. So we will build capacity. They'll have a proper business plan. They'll be registered with the Ministry of Commerce, because we have ERS at the back of everything. They have to be complying young entrepreneurs. They term it as being procurement ready. That is what we want to make sure it happens once we have given them this opportunity to do the grass cutting through the purchase order financing. It is 12 young people, from our wards. Yes, we are expecting millions of applications, but we've put in some conditions which will help us start to identify the seriousness in our young people. We all know them. They need the hand-holding. They get frustrated easily, and the compliance then tends to also kick in to say they fail to comply with some of the things. The requirements will be there. We want young people who will apply themselves when opportunities come, and then we'll do the shortlisting. Of course, we are targeting Mbabane young people. You have to be a resident of Mbabane. You are aged between 18 and 35 years old. Your community will endorse your application form, so that you are known, and it's a citizen that we know that is a Mbabane person. Where then the shortlisting, which will also include the vetting by the police. It will also include checking from the credit, what do they call it, the blacklisting, to say, aren't you a blacklisted young person? Because in business, you have to be financially prudent. Credit is very important for growth and for whatever. They will be also exposed to that kind of vetting before we can now work on them or bring them on board.
You say the community will have to endorse the applications of these young entrepreneurs. What do you mean by that?
There'll be a letter, the form. In the form, your community has to sign. There is an LCC, what we call a local community committee. They know it. You take your application form before you bring it back to the municipality. And then your councillor or your secretary at the community level will sign to say, yes, we know Nonhlanhla Dlamini is a resident at Ward 4, and we do recommend that they can work or can be considered for this kind of an opportunity.
When do you expect the applications to start coming in?
Okay, today, before end of business, we should be posting our link where they will download the forms.
Right.
And then once they download the forms, we give them a period of 10 days to fill in all the necessary information and get all the quotations that are required. Then they bring them back to council.
Well, so one way to look at it is grass cutting. It's a pilot program.
It is a pilot
I'll
program.
give the municipality credit. Oh, grace, if I should
Thank you.
say.
Thank you so
But
much.
this is an informal line of work. When you look at the paperwork, all of these requirements, the tax compliance, the documentation that one needs to have, these are exactly the problems that young people are complaining of, the red tapes to doing business. Why was it so critical of the municipality to say, yes, we want to empower you, but at the same time, we need you to have this, we need you to comply?
Yes. I'm not too sure why you're calling grass cutting informal.
Okay.
Tenders out there are businesses recognized by government, by the municipality. Companies do tender for grass cutting. It is one of our services that we outsource and cancel. So we are just giving a quota to our young people. Okay. Yes, it sounds like a tedious process for the ordinary young person, but hey, we have all sorts of young people in the country. Some of them are unemployed, they are qualified, they understand very well what will be required of them. Some of them, yes, they might have that challenge. But we are saying, how do we want to handle the influx of applications? You must show commitment to it. We are not that stringent to say, bring a proper business plan, bring a cash flow. It's just basic things. Know your story somehow. It's grass cutting. You'll be told where the open spaces are. You should know your community. Go and get it signed. Take it to the police. There's nothing technical about it. Go get a quotation if you want to be in grass cutting. How do you go about doing it? So that when you start implementing this thing, remember it's the ratepayers' money. We don't want to take that much of risk giving people for the sake of it. So it's a way of saying, let us see commitment from you, young person, as well, so that when it comes to implementation, we know we have someone who is dedicated, someone who is committed.
And as the municipality, you can definitely say you have delivered the service.
You have delivered the services. Yeah. If I can make an example, even when you go to scholarship, you would have passed, but they still want you to go to your chiefdom so that you get all those things. In a way, we are building this Eswatini to say, know the requirements as a young person in the country, the procurement ones, the municipality ones, your local government ones. Responsible citizens. We want those kind of young entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much for your time. That was Winnie Dlamini, who is the City Economic Development Officer for the Mbabane Municipal Council, talking to us about the recently signed MOU by the municipality alongside the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. For now, we'll go for a break. After that, we're in conversation with in-house economist Anele Sibia. Stay with us.
The viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@escom.org.za. For more information, visit www.escom.org.za.
Welcome back for our market analysis. In-house economist Anele Sibia is on standby for us virtually. Mr. Sibia, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Reports of a large slump in gold, silver and oil and other precious industrial metals. What's your translation of the story?
Thank you, Notsile. Good afternoon to you and also to the viewer. So that is actually what is driving markets in today's trade. That loss and profit taking around, precious metals, including gold and oil. I mean, if you remember last week, gold was trading above the 5,000 mark per ounce, but in today's trade, it's trading around 4,600, dollars per ounce. So now that has actually led to markets really just, being on an edge, because there's quite a lot of influx or confluence of factors that are driving what we are seeing there. Starting in the US, we've seen overall losses across the markets, with the Nasdaq Composite Index losing 223 points on Friday's trade, and also in terms of the futures. That's largely driven by the fact that investors are no longer confident around AI. Remember, earlier last year we spoke of 100 billion investment into OpenAI. We've seen the Wall Street Journal, reporting that deal is somehow on freeze right now. So now that has brought some skepticism into the markets, and also there are issues to do with the new Fed chair, President Trump's appointee, and what that means for the Federal Reserve Bank, and also in terms of the interest rate direction. So there's a lot of speculation in the U.S. markets right now. But the Standard & Poor's 500 index there still remains at 6,939.03 in overall share, but still on the red. And then if you cross to Europe, what you see happening is a bit of some defensive moves within the UK economy, and also throughout the whole Eurozone there. In London, the FTSE 100 has gained 6.02 points in today's trade, and in Germany, we're seeing a 68.25 percentage point gain, and in France, we're seeing a 6.85 gain in today's trade. Now, that is largely driven by the fact that we know that there are issues to do with precious metals, but we've seen investors in that part of the globe moving to those blue chip stocks, and also those defense stocks and those pharma stocks there. So that is somehow insulating London and the greater Eurozone from the onslaught that we are seeing in global markets today. But it doesn't mean they've been spared, more especially from that tech fear, and also from that precious metal decline of yet. And then we move into Asia. There is a couple of issues happening there. Number one is the loss in terms of value in the pressures in those minerals. And then there's also, we know that in Japan, Tokyo, we're expecting a snap election, and we've seen overall in mainland, we've seen the first decline in government revenues in 5 years. So now that is resulting to that downward trade in the Asia region. And when we move into South Africa, the South African Stock Exchange, given that it's largely driven by those precious metals, we've seen it losing some 2,674.15 rands in today's trade in terms of overall share volumes, largely driven by that slump in the price of precious metals. In Eswatini, we have not seen any change. Gold remains subdued at $4,688 per barrel per ounce, and Brent crude oil remains has declined to $66.18 per barrel, largely driven by that truce between Iran and America, even though it is not yet clear. In terms of the currencies, we've seen a bit of weakness, but we saw a bit of a rebound in today's markets, largely driven by the fact that we're seeing that slump in those precious metals. Thank you, Mutsu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear, for your insights. That was in-house economist Anele Sibiya sharing insights on today's trade. Otherwise, this has been Market View from myself and the crew. Thank you very much for staying with us. Until the next edition, bye-bye.